Blackwood Creek wasn't just a name. It was a feeling, a subtle chill in the air, even on the warmest days. A history steeped in strange disappearances, unexplained misfortunes, and a recurring, unsettling legend whispered only in hushed tones by the oldest residents. Every autumn, as the leaves turned to flame and the nights grew long, the town seemed to hold its breath, waiting. Our protagonist, Amelia, had grown up in Blackwood Creek, absorbing its peculiar atmosphere like the damp earth absorbed the autumn mist. She ran the local antique shop, a quiet haven filled with forgotten stories. But even there, the whispers of the town's unsettling history seeped in through the cracks. The story of the Shadow Man, a mysterious figure who arrived with a strange carnival every century, always just before a string of misfortunes befell the town, was a familiar, chilling lullaby. This year, however, the whispers were louder. The feeling of anticipation was thicker. The leaves on the ancient oak in the town square had turned black, not red or gold, and hadn't fallen. And then it arrived. One crisp October morning, Amelia awoke to an unnatural silence. The usual chirping of birds was absent. The only sound was a faint, distant hum. She peered out her window, her breath catching in her throat. Overnight, a carnival had appeared on the outskirts of town, where the old, abandoned fairgrounds lay. It wasn't a typical carnival. The tents were spun from midnight blue and deep purple canvas, adorned with intricate silver embroidery that seemed to shimmer in the weak morning light. Calliope music, low and mournful, drifted on the breeze, a haunting melody that was both enchanting and deeply unsettling. A massive Gothic gate, carved with swirling raven motifs and shadowed faces, marked its entrance. Above it, a banner unfurled proclaiming in elegant, cursive script, "The Carnival of Curiosities, a journey beyond the veil." Amelia felt an inexplicable pull, a strange sense of déjà vu, as if she had been waiting for this all her life. The town elders, their faces grim, gathered in the square, their whispers turning to fearful pronouncements. "It's back," old Mrs. Gable rasped, clutching her rosary. "The Shadow Man. The curse is upon us again." Amelia, despite the town's palpable fear, felt an undeniable fascination. Her logical mind told her to stay away, but an intense, almost primal curiosity drew her in. That evening, as the moon, unnaturally large and blood-red, rose above Blackwood Creek, Amelia found herself walking towards the shimmering, arcane glow of the carnival. She passed through the Gothic gates, her heart a frantic drumbeat against her ribs. The air inside was thick with the scent of spun sugar and something else, something ancient and wild, like ozone and dark earth. Performers, their faces painted in grotesque yet beautiful masks, glided past, their eyes, when they met hers, holding a strange, knowing glint. Fire-eaters breathed emerald flames, contortionists twisted into impossible shapes, and fortune-tellers sat in velvet tents, their crystal balls swirling with unsettling visions. But it was the main stage that drew her eye. A grand velvet-draped platform at the heart of the carnival, lit by flickering gas lamps. And standing upon it, bathed in a single ethereal spotlight, was the Ringmaster. He was magnificent. Tall and lean, clad in a dark velvet tailcoat that seemed to absorb the light, with eyes that gleamed like polished jet and a smile that promised both danger and infinite delight. His face was a study in enigmatic beauty, carved with sharp angles and shadowed planes, framed by dark, impossibly long hair. As his gaze swept over the mesmerized crowd, it paused, lingered, and then, impossibly, locked onto Amelia's. A jolt, like lightning, shot through her. A strange, compelling warmth spread through her chest, a feeling of absolute recognition, as if she had known him for centuries. And as he smiled, a slow, predatory curve of his lips, a whisper echoed in her mind, "You finally returned." The Ringmaster's gaze was a physical touch, a jolt that left Amelia breathless. The whisper in her mind, "You've finally returned," was unnerving, yet deeply resonant, stirring something ancient and forgotten within her. He was not just a man. He was a presence, a force of nature cloaked in velvet and shadow. He lifted a gloved hand, and the mournful calliope music swelled, weaving a spell around the entire carnival. His voice, when he finally spoke, was a low, resonant baritone that carried over the excited murmurs of the crowd, each word a hypnotic caress. "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Carnival of Curiosities." His voice was laced with an archaic charm, a hint of something old and untamed, Prepare to witness wonders beyond your mortal ken, to peer behind the veil of reality, and to perhaps, just perhaps, discover a truth you never knew existed. His eyes, impossibly dark, swept over the crowd once more, and again they lingered on Amelia, holding her captive. She felt a profound sense of attraction, an undeniable pull towards him that defied all reason. It was as if every fiber of her being recognized him, responded to his presence with an intensity that was both thrilling and deeply unsettling. He led the audience through a series of mesmerizing acts, a magician who conjured impossible landscapes, a fortune-teller whose predictions were disturbingly accurate, and acrobats who seemed to defy gravity itself, their movements graceful and shadow-like. Each performance seemed to resonate with a subtle, dark magic, weaving a spell over the onlookers, but Amelia's attention kept drifting back to the Ringmaster. He moved with a predatory grace, his dark coat seeming to flow like liquid shadow. He commanded the performers with a mere glance, his smile holding a hint of ancient power. He was the conductor of this strange symphony, the master of this dark ballet. As the final act concluded, the Ringmaster, bathed in the ethereal spotlight, raised his hands. The calliope music faded into a low, lingering hum. "Thank you, fair folk of Blackwood Creek," he announced, his voice filled with a captivating charm. "We hope you enjoyed our humble offerings. But remember, the true show often happens in the dark, and for some of you, it has only just begun." His gaze once again locked onto Amelia's. This time, it held a deeper meaning, a chilling promise. He held her eyes for a long moment, a silent message passing between them, before he bowed with a flourish and disappeared into the swirling shadows backstage. Amelia felt a profound sense of both disappointment and intense anticipation. She knew, with an instinct deeper than thought, that her encounter with him was far from over. As the crowd began to disperse, a strange uneasiness settled over the carnival grounds. The festive atmosphere began to curdle, replaced by a subtle, creeping dread. Amelia noticed small details she hadn't before. The painted smiles on the performers seemed a little too wide, their movements a little too stiff. The scents of spun sugar and dark earth were now tinged with something else, something metallic, like old blood, and something musty, like ancient decay. She decided to explore the carnival a little further, drawn by an irresistible urge. She wandered past the brightly lit stalls, now oddly silent, and towards the darker, less frequented corners. She found herself at the entrance of a forgotten funhouse, its facade painted with grinning, distorted faces. A chilling wind, not from the autumn night, but from somewhere deeper, seemed to emanate from within. Hesitantly, Amelia pushed open the funhouse door. The air inside was thick with an unnatural cold, and the only light came from faint, shimmering emerald glyphs etched into the floor. The distorted mirrors lining the walls reflected not her own image, but fleeting, shadowy figures that danced at the edges of her vision. And then she saw it. Reflected in one of the antique, warped mirrors was a quick flash of an old town square shrouded in a similar mist. Figures moved through it, their faces distorted by fear, their eyes wide with terror. And in the center of the square, standing tall and menacing, was a figure that made her blood run cold. A tall, dark figure with eyes that gleamed like polished jet, and a smile that promised both danger and delight. The Ringmaster, the shadow man of legend, and beside him, in the reflection, a woman. Her face was obscured, but Amelia felt an inexplicable connection to her, a profound sense of recognition. The woman's eyes, even in the warped reflection, held a desperate, terrified attraction. And then, the image flickered, distorted, and disappeared, replaced by her own terrified reflection. Amelia stumbled back, her heart a frantic drumbeat against her ribs. The legends were true. The Ringmaster was the shadow man, and the chilling warmth she felt for him, the undeniable attraction. It was not just hers. It was part of the curse. A dark, inescapable legacy whispered in the unsettling history of Blackwood Creek. Amelia stumbled out of the funhouse, gasping for breath, the image of the Ringmaster and the terrified woman seared into her mind. The laughter of the carnival, the festive music, now seemed grotesque, a mockery of the darkness she had just glimpsed. The chill of the funhouse clung to her, a premonition of something ancient and malevolent. She fled the carnival, running through the now deserted fairgrounds, the unsettling quiet amplifying her fear. She burst into her antique shop, locking the door behind her, leaning against the cold wood, trying to rationalize what she had seen. It was just an old funhouse, a trick of light and shadow, a product of her overactive imagination. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. The next morning, the town was abuzz, but not with excitement. A series of strange misfortunes had begun. Mrs. Gable's prized rose garden, a vibrant display of color, had withered overnight, turning black and brittle. The town's baker found his morning's loaves turned to ash in the oven, despite no fire. Small, unsettling events echoing the whispers of the past. Amelia, despite her fear, felt an undeniable pull back to the carnival. The Ringmaster. The image of the woman in the mirror, a spectral reflection of herself, haunted her. She knew with an unsettling certainty that she was inextricably linked to this man, to this carnival, to this curse. She spent the day poring over her antique shop's oldest records, dusting off forgotten town ledgers and ancient newspaper clippings. She found fragmented accounts, hushed reports of the Shadow Man's carnival appearing every 100 years, always accompanied by a period of creeping despair and unexplained misfortunes. Always, the arrival of the carnival heralded a dark time for Blackwood Creek, and then she found it. A tattered, leather-bound diary, hidden beneath a loose floorboard in her shop, dating back over a century. The cramped, faded handwriting belonged to a woman named Eleanor Vance, a former resident of Blackwood Creek. As Amelia read, a cold dread tightened its grip on her heart. Eleanor's entries spoke of a strange carnival, of its enigmatic ringmaster, a man of captivating darkness. She spoke of his mesmerizing eyes, his seductive charm, and the undeniable pull she felt towards him. She detailed the unsettling events that followed the carnival's arrival, the petty misfortunes that slowly escalated into genuine tragedies. And then a chilling entry. He watches me. He calls to me in my dreams. I cannot resist him. He promises me wonders, a world beyond this sleepy town. But his price? I fear his price. The last entry, frantic and smeared with tears, made Amelia's blood run cold. He wants my heart. He wants my soul. He wants a me, and I cannot say no. I am cursed. We are all cursed. He came for me as he comes for all of us. And I love him. God help me, I love him. He is the Shadow Man, and I am his. The diary ended abruptly there, the page torn, leaving Eleanor's fate a terrifying mystery. But Amelia knew. She knew the woman in the mirror had been Eleanor, and she knew that the chilling attraction she felt for the Ringmaster, the undeniable pull, was the very same curse. That evening, as the unsettling calliope music drifted once more from the fairgrounds, Amelia knew she had to return. She wasn't just observing the curse. She was part of it. The Ringmaster wasn't just a showman. He was the master of her fate. And her heart, against all reason, against all terror, called out to him, beckoning her back into the very heart of the Carnival of Curses. Amelia returned to the Carnival of Curiosities under the blood-red moon, her heart a tangled knot of fear and an undeniable, cursed attraction. The revelations from Eleanor Vance's diary had stripped away any lingering doubt. The Ringmaster was the Shadow Man, a bringer of misfortune, and she, like Eleanor before her, was entangled in his ancient web. She moved through the carnival grounds, her perception heightened by fear and a strange, nascent awareness of the magic around her. The masked performers seemed to watch her, their painted smiles too wide, their movements unnaturally fluid, like puppets on invisible strings. The air vibrated with a subtle malevolence, the scent of spun sugar now overshadowed by something metallic and ancient. Her steps led her inevitably back to the main stage. It was empty save for a single flickering gas lamp. The velvet curtains behind it, deep purple and heavy, seemed to beckon her. With a deep breath, Amelia pushed through them, stepping backstage into a world shrouded in shadow. The backstage area was a labyrinth of props, costumes, and forgotten machinery. It smelled of dust, old velvet, and something else, something distinctly him. She felt his presence, a powerful, intoxicating energy that permeated the very air. And then she saw him. He stood in the center of the shadowy space, his back to her, silhouetted against a faint emerald glow emanating from a hidden alcove. He was no longer in his ringmaster attire, but clad in simple, dark clothing, his immense height and lean, powerful build evident even in the dim light. His dark, impossibly long hair cascaded down his back. As if sensing her presence, he turned slowly. His eyes, jet-black pools of ancient knowledge, locked onto hers. A slow, knowing smile spread across his face. a smile that promised both danger and infinite delight. "You came," he murmured, his voice a low, resonant purr that wrapped around her consciousness like a silken thread. "I knew you would. The curse, after all, is quite compelling." Amelia stood frozen, a deer caught in the headlights of his immense dark power. "The curse," she repeated, her voice trembling. "Eleanor Vance. You did this to her, didn't you? You bring misfortune. You trap women," the ringmaster chuckled, a low, seductive sound. "Misfortune is merely an imbalance, little mortal. A consequence of imbalance. And Eleanor, she was a willing participant. Just as you are." He took a step towards her, and then another, until he stood directly before her, his immense presence utterly overwhelming. He reached out, his gloved hand gently cupping her chin, tilting her head back. His touch, though cold, sent a familiar, unsettling current through her, a dark warmth that thrilled and terrified her simultaneously. "My name, little Amelia, is Malachor," he purred, his eyes burning into hers. "And I am not merely a showman. I am the master of this carnival, the master of these shadows, and the master of Blackwood Creek's history." He spoke of his true nature, an ancient entity, a being of shadows and curses, banished from his own realm long ago. He had found refuge in the mortal world, his power intertwined with the cycles of this very town. The carnival was his vessel, his method of feeding, of slowly regaining his strength. And the women he captivated, the women who felt the cursed attraction, they were the key. "Your ancestors, Amelia," Malachor explained, his voice a low, compelling whisper. "They made a bargain with me centuries ago, to protect their harvest, their land. A blood pact, a small price, they thought. But curses, little mortal, always have deeper roots, and a far more delicious price." He leaned in, his dark, mesmerizing eyes locking onto hers. "Your attraction to me is no accident. It is an echo, Amelia, an echo of the very first pact. You are inextricably bound to me, and in return for your devotion, your energy, your compliance, I offer you a world beyond your wildest dreams, power, knowledge, and a love that will defy even the grave." He kissed her then, a deep, possessive kiss that tasted of ancient magic and forbidden longing. It was a kiss of claim, a sealing of a dark, inescapable curse. Amelia, the woman of logic, was lost. She was captivated, bound, and terrifyingly, hopelessly in love with the Shadow Man. The Carnival of Curses had claimed its next victim, and this time the price would be her soul. The kiss was a branding, a claiming, a melding of two disparate souls. Malachor, the enigmatic ringmaster, the Shadow Man, held Amelia captive, not just with his physical presence, but with the undeniable ancient pull that resonated deep within her. The magic of the carnival, the whispers of the past, swirled around them, making her feel as if she had finally stepped into her true, preordained place. When he finally pulled away, his dark eyes burned with a profound, possessive love that was both terrifying and intoxicating. "You are truly mine now, Amelia," he purred, his voice a low, melodic hum that vibrated through her very bones. "As you were meant to be for generations untold. The curse is not merely a burden. It is a bond, a connection beyond the understanding of mortals." Amelia, despite the logical alarm bells screaming in her mind, found herself leaning into his touch, drawn to him with an intensity that defied all reason. The fear was still there, a faint tremor, but it was overshadowed by a compelling warmth, a sense of belonging she had never known. She was not just captivated, she was consumed. Malachor began to unveil the true nature of the curse and his connection to Blackwood Creek. He was an ancient entity, a lord of shadows, banished from his own realm for a transgression he only vaguely hinted at, a betrayal by his own kind. He had stumbled upon this town centuries ago, a place steeped in nascent magic, and made a pact with its desperate founding ancestors. He would bless their harvest, protect their land in exchange for a gradual, generational tethering to its residents, subtly drawing on their latent magical energy, strengthening his physical form with each passing century. And then, there was the additional clause, a chosen maiden, once every 100 years would be drawn to him, bound to him, helping to anchor his power, bridging the gap between his realm and theirs. Eleanor Vance had been one such maiden. Amelia was another. "The misfortunes that plague this town," Malachor explained, his hand gently tracing the curve of her jaw. "They are not my direct doing. They are merely a symptom, the price of their ancestors' greed, of their willingness to bargain for power without understanding the true cost. Their magic wanes, and so does their luck. I merely facilitate the balance. His twisted logic was insidious, yet compelling. He framed himself not as a bringer of curses, but as a force of natural consequence. He was merely collecting on an ancient debt, restoring a cosmic balance. And in his dark, mesmerizing eyes, Amelia found herself disturbingly believing him. He showed her glimpses of his shadow realm, a place of breathtaking, ethereal beauty, where light and darkness danced in perpetual twilight, where magic flowed like rivers, and ancient beings moved with silent grace. He spoke of his lost kingdom, his rightful throne, and his desire to reclaim it, to merge his shadowy domain with this mundane world, to create a new, grand reality. And she, Amelia, would be his queen. "Your predecessors, the women before you," Malachor murmured, his voice laced with a subtle sorrow. "They resisted. They fought the bond, and in doing so, they brought more misery upon themselves and their town. But you, my Amelia, you are different. You embrace the truth. You embrace me." He kissed her again, a deeper, more demanding kiss that left her breathless, her body tingling with a strange, dark energy. She felt his power flowing into her, awakening latent magical abilities she never knew she possessed. Her senses sharpened, her perception expanded, seeing the subtle magical currents that hummed beneath the mundane world. The curse, she realized, was not just a burden. It was a gift, a key to a world she never knew existed. And the love she felt for him, dangerous and forbidden, was the sweetest part of all. As Amelia's bond with Malachor deepened, so too did the town's misfortunes. The subtle oddities escalated. Animals in Blackwood Creek fell ill, crops withered, and small, unexplained fires broke out. The mood in the town curdled into open panic. The elders, grim-faced, spoke of the shadow man and the curse, their fears palpable, almost tangible. Amelia, however, was increasingly insulated from their despair. Malachor had woven subtle glamours around her, cloaking her in an aura of detached calm. She walked among the panicking townsfolk, seeing their fear, their petty struggles, their dwindling hope, with a growing sense of superiority. Their mundane concerns seemed trivial compared to the grand cosmic drama unfolding around her, a drama she was now a central part of. Malachor was her constant companion, always physically present or resonating in her mind. He continued her education, teaching her to manipulate shadows, to weave minor illusions, to perceive the magical energies of the world. Her old life as an antique shop owner faded, replaced by an intoxicating existence as his confidant. His apprentice, his beloved. Their fear strengthens me. "Amelia," Malachor explained one evening, as they watched the flickering lights of the panicked town from the top of the carnival's highest tent. He was in his full, magnificent human form, his dark coat billowing in the wind, his eyes glowing like polished jet. "Their despair is a feast. Their collective belief in the curse? It is a powerful spell, anchoring me deeper into this realm." He held her close, his arms strong and possessive around her. "You are my true anchor, my love. Your willingness, your acceptance, your growing power, it transcends their petty fear. It completes me." Amelia felt the truth of his words. Her own magical abilities, once dormant, blossomed under his tutelage. She found she could draw shadows to her, shaping them, weaving them into temporary forms. She could whisper subtle suggestions into the minds of others, influencing their thoughts, bending their will. It was terrifying, exhilarating power, and Malachor reveled in her awakening. Their love, born of a curse, deepened into something profound and undeniable. Malachor was demanding, possessive, but also intensely devoted. He saw her as his equal, his queen, his partner in an eternal reign. He treated her with a tenderness that belied his dark nature, and in his arms, Amelia felt a sense of belonging she had never known. One afternoon, a small group of the town's older residents, led by a distraught Mrs. Gable, gathered near the carnival's gates. Clutching rosaries and ancient talismans, they chanted prayers, their voices filled with desperate hope, trying to ward off the carnival's dark influence. Malachor merely watched them from the main stage, a predatory smile playing on his lips. "They cling to their dying gods, little Amelia, to their impotent rituals. They do not understand the true power that governs their world now." He turned to her, his dark eyes burning with an intense purpose. Show them, my love. Show them the futility of their resistance. Show them the power of their new queen. Amelia hesitated for a fleeting moment, a ghostly echo of her old self. But then she looked into Malicor's eyes, into the depths of his unwavering devotion, and felt the immense power swirling within her. This was her purpose. This was her destiny. She raised her hand, extending it towards the terrified townsfolk. She focused her will, drawing on the shadows around her, weaving them into a subtle, almost imperceptible illusion of dread. The air around the townsfolk grew impossibly cold. Their rosaries felt like lead, their voices cracked with unexplainable fear. They screamed not at a visible monster, but at the creeping, intangible terror she had conjured. The townsfolk broke rank, fleeing in disarray, their prayers turning to desperate cries. Malicor watched them go, a triumphant smile on his lips. He pulled Amelia into his arms, his kiss a reward, a silent promise of eternal dominion. The town's desperation escalated into full-blown panic. The local authorities, bewildered by the inexplicable misfortunes and the growing hysteria, called in outside experts, paranormal investigators, spiritualists, and even a few skeptical academics. They were all blind, of course, to the true source of Blackwood Creek's woes. Malicor and Amelia observed them from the shadows, invisible to their mundane eyes. The investigators set up their gadgets, attempting to measure spiritual energy, to record ghostly voices. Malicor merely scoffed, his mind voice filled with contempt. They seek echoes, little Amelia. They seek remnants. They do not comprehend the true living power that stands before them. He used their presence to his advantage, subtly manipulating their equipment, causing their readings to spike wildly, their recordings to fill with chilling, unidentifiable whispers. He reveled in their confusion, their mounting frustration, their eventual surrender to the inexplicable. Their fear, their bewilderment, was a potent offering to his growing strength. Amelia found herself relishing these games. Her conscience, once a nagging whisper, was now a silent, forgotten thing. She was fully immersed in Malicor's world, her identity now inextricably linked to his. She helped him orchestrate minor illusions, guiding the investigators down fruitless paths, feeding their fear. She was his partner, his co-conspirator, his queen. Malicor spoke of the final ritual, the true merging of his shadow realm with Blackwood Creek. It would fully anchor him in this world, granting him absolute dominion, reshaping the town into a physical extension of his shadowy kingdom. And for this, he would need her full and complete surrender, her willing sacrifice of her mortal ties. "It will be a transcendence, my love," Malicor explained one night, as they stood on the outskirts of town, looking down at the flickering lights. The carnival pulsed behind them, a beacon of dark power. "You will shed your mortal coil, Amelia. You will become a true being of shadows, immortal, powerful, utterly bound to me and my realm." He spoke of his enemies, the other shadow lords who had banished him, who now felt his growing power and were stirring in their distant realms. They would come for him to stop his return, to reclaim their supremacy. And Amelia, as his queen, would stand by his side. "Are you ready, my love?" he asked, his dark eyes burning with an intense, possessive love. "Ready to abandon all that you were, to embrace all that you will become? To face our enemies and claim our eternal reign?" Amelia looked into his mesmerizing eyes, into the depths of his ancient power and his unwavering devotion. Her heart, once broken by mundane grief, now beat with a dark, exhilarating purpose. She had found her destiny, her power, her love in the heart of the curse. "Yes," she whispered, her voice firm, resolute. "I am ready, Malicor, for us, for our kingdom." The final night arrived, Halloween itself. The air in Blackwood Creek thrummed with an unnatural energy, a palpable tension. The town was mostly deserted, its residents either having fled or huddled indoors, terrified by the escalating, inexplicable events. The Carnival of Curiosities, however, glowed with a dark, vibrant life, its calliope music now a grand, triumphant anthem. Malicor stood on the main stage, magnificent in his dark velvet ringmaster coat, his eyes gleaming with an unholy triumph. Amelia stood beside him, her own transformation subtly evident. Her skin had a faint, ethereal pallor. Her eyes glowed with a soft, emerald light, and her movements possessed a new, shadow-like grace. She wore a simple, elegant dark gown that flowed around her, subtly hinting at the power within. "The time has come, my love," Malicor's voice boomed. amplified by the carnival's magic, resonating through the deserted town. To complete the merging, to fully anchor my essence in this world, to reclaim my true form, my full power, and to solidify our eternal pact. He explained that this ritual would fully intertwine their souls, making her immortal, a true shadow queen. The last vestiges of her human ties would be severed, allowing her to transcend mortality and reign by his side. It will bind us, utterly and irrevocably, he continued, his gaze intense, possessive, filled with a dark, profound love. Our souls will be one, our power one, our destiny one. Are you truly ready, Amelia, to surrender your mortality, to become one with the shadows and to me for all eternity? Amelia looked into his mesmerizing eyes, into the depths of his ancient power and his absolute love. She had found her purpose, her meaning, her life in him. She had chosen this path, embraced this darkness, forged this love. She was ready. Yes, she whispered, her voice firm, resolute. I am ready, Malachor. For us, Malachor smiled, a slow, breathtaking curve of his lips that was both terrifying and utterly captivating. He extended his hand, and as their fingers intertwined, a surge of dark, potent energy erupted from the stage, enveloping them both in a swirling vortex of emerald light and inky shadow. The velvet curtains behind them ripped apart, revealing not a backstage but a portal to the shadow realm, its ethereal landscape bleeding into the carnival grounds. The props and tents melted away, replaced by glowing, ancient trees and swirling mists. From the depths of the portal, a magnificent shadowy throne began to emerge, vast and regal, forged from pure darkness and emerald light. It was Malachor's true throne, his seat of dominion. As it solidified, a crown of sharpened obsidian and swirling mist materialized above Malachor's head, descending to rest upon his dark hair. He was no longer just the Ringmaster. He was the Shadow King, a being of unimaginable power, fully restored. He pulled Amelia into a deep, consuming embrace, his lips finding hers in a powerful, soul-sealing kiss. It was the crowning of his queen, a final, unbreakable vow. Amelia felt the last vestiges of her human limitations fall away, replaced by an intoxicating surge of shadow power. Her body hummed with a cold, ethereal vitality. Her vision sharpened, seeing into the deepest secrets of the merged realms. She was no longer Amelia, the antique shop owner. She was the Shadow Queen, the consort of the Raven King, her essence forever intertwined with his. When they finally broke apart, Malachor stood, immense and majestic, his crown gleaming, his dark eyes burning with triumph. Amelia stood beside him, her own beauty now ethereal and commanding, her emerald eyes shining with a profound, terrifying grace. A subtle, dark crown of mist and shadow shimmered into existence upon her own head, solidifying her new status. The curtain has fallen on the old world, my queen, Malachor's voice boomed, no longer confined by the carnival, but echoing into the merged realms. The true show begins. Our reign has commenced. He led her to the shadowy throne, and together they ascended it, taking their rightful places. The Carnival of Curses, no longer a mere attraction, was now the gateway, the heart of their eternal kingdom, blending seamlessly into the transformed landscape of Blackwood Creek. The curse was complete, and Amelia, the cursed maiden, was now its powerful, beloved queen, ruling beside her Shadow King for all eternity.